This next project is going to be this big buck knife sheath. I've had several requests to do this one. This was the first one I did with a big knife like this, and I'm going to modify this slightly, but I want to show you a few key features so that you'll know how it's built. So this one you don't have to mold any leather for, it's just stacked leather. You can see it's quite thick. So it has the little flap that has the stud to hold the knife in place with this guard here, and this can snap off. But it has to be thick enough so that the guard can clear this back piece. And if you look at this, I don't know how well you can see that. You can see that it's pieces of leather that are stacked up to make it the right thickness, even on the side there. You can see how it's stacked. So when I did this to begin with, I made a pattern, and that's what I would suggest you do if you're going to make one. Now, how I'm going to change this is, here's my original pattern with a piece that's been added on the top to make it a little wider and a little taller. But if you look at this knife sheath, I'm going to make it a little wider at the top and a little taller than what it is now. And the reason for that is this belt loop at the back came a little close to this indentation. I'm going to modify this design a little bit. And originally I didn't stitch this. It's two pieces of leather glued together. And I found that if you don't stitch it, even if it's glued, it'll start to come apart eventually. So I glued it and then stitched it. So I'll do that on this particular one. So I want to show you the pieces that are involved. So the main piece, the back piece, is actually two pieces, and the reason for that is this Firestarter holder is just a loop in the leather. And I want to have that on this next one as well. You don't have to have that on there. If you did, you could make it either out of a thicker piece of leather or just eliminate this altogether. So if you look at the two pieces, it's just one big piece, and it's folded around, and the knife, or the fire starter, will just fit in here once it's sewn together. And as usual, I've made my templates out of old cereal boxes because it makes for a nice kind of stiff template, and it also allows you to fold it. A thicker cardboard wouldn't allow you to fold it over. So this is the back piece. Then the two filler pieces that I showed you to bring up this thickness here are two pieces like this, where there'll be a thick piece here, and I'll skive it down so it tapers into this other piece, and then another filler on top of that, a thick piece of leather, and it'll skive down so the knife can just go in. So once that's in place, then there needs to be a barrier around the edge where the knife fits in, and you can see these two pieces here are actually the barrier for the knife. So again, on the template here, here's one piece and then the other piece, and that will allow the knife to fit in there. And I made a little cutout of a knife too, so I could play with this without using the actual knife, so that'll just fit in there like that. Once that's glued into place, the front piece will fit on here like this, and then the knife can go in from the top. So one other thing I wanted to show you on this is this, even though this looks like maybe an inlay here, this is one piece of leather. I've just colored it different in the different sections. And then of course this little piece here for the stud. One other thing I wanted to show you is the piece that is underneath the front panel. There's two pieces to hold the knife in place. If you'll notice, they are two pieces. It's two separate pieces, and there's a reason for that. I've got a little hole or a slot between these two pieces And there's a little hole at the bottom there, you can see it. That's in case you were ever to fall in the water, or you dropped the knife in the water and you picked it back up, this pocket wouldn't hold water, it would drain out through that hole. Now this is not waterproof, but it's just a nice feature to have in case you have some kind of emergency like that. Okay, I guess the next part is to go ahead and get out some leather and start to make the pieces. The one last thing I didn't show before I start cutting leather is the belt loop on the back. This was the pattern for the original belt loop, and this actually folds over. So this new one, I might make the belt loop a little wider than this one. And now that it's this is taller, this piece won't interfere with this cutout. And the cutout, of course, is for that loop that holds the knife in place. So I'll probably make another one of these, another pattern for the new loop, making it wider. And the other thing too is I found that I like to make this back piece that folds underneath come all the way down to where it sews in place. It just makes for a sturdier loop, and I think it actually looks better and fits your belt better. I've got a piece of leather here and got my template. I'm going to go ahead and mark this, and I'm gonna mark it exactly because I want to cut out exactly and then fold it over and glue it together so that it's pretty close to the final product. Whereas like some cases where it's molded, I just cut the leather larger and cut the excess off later. But this, I want to make it pretty much as it's going to be right from the start. So I'm going to go ahead and just mark this with a pencil. As you can tell, I'm trying to mark this without letting it slip, so I get everything exact. Okay, that's close enough. Now I'll go ahead and cut that out. So I think what I'll do first is I'll just cut this out with a pair of scissors so that it's a smaller piece that's easier to manage. Okay, now it's hard to see that, and it's sometimes a little bit hard to see even this line that I've got on here. The light has to be just right. Okay, so I'll get ready to cut this out now. I went ahead and traced over those lines again to darken them up a little bit more so that I could see it better as I'm cutting. So I'm going to go ahead and cut like the outside portion with just scissors because it's easier. And then I'll use a knife on the inside portions that are curved. Okay, I've cut most of the parts I'm going to cut with scissors, and I'll go ahead and switch to a knife now. Still have the little cutouts here. Okay, there's the back panel all cut and ready to fold around and glue together. I'm going to do one other thing, I think, too, and that is these little flint strikers come with a striker piece of steel, and I've just used a knife in the past, but I think I'm going to make a little pocket on the back here that this can fit into, so I can carry this striker around as well, and it'll just be a pocket on the back of the knife sheath. So it'll end up being on the back of one of these panels, so I'll make a little panel for that as well.